going on, everyone? Merry Christmas and welcome to episode 5 of the Downtown Browntown podcast. I'm your host, Downtown Brown. Before we get started, again, just want to wish you all a very Merry Christmas and hope you have a great time, whatever you're doing with friends, family, and just enjoy it. Got a 5-game NBA slate today. It's going to be awesome. Obviously, we've got the Bucks tipping off at 1:30 p.m. Central against the Golden State Warriors at the Fiserv Forum. First time the Bucks have played in Milwaukee on Christmas Day since 1968. Pretty awesome that they're at home. Obviously, it's very unfortunate that there are no fans at this game. I was hoping to be there myself, but that's okay. At least the Bucks got a home game, and can't wait to watch them tip off against the Warriors. Before we get started, just want to give a special shout out to my best friends. You guys all know who you are. Thank you guys for being awesome. I appreciate you so much, and my life would not be the same without you guys. So I love you guys, and thank you for being awesome. And also just want to give another shout out to my buddy Dylan Trapp, who just released his first newspaper, Brady Street Banter. It's a great read. I recommend anyone to check it out, and I can't wait to read their next one. So now let's get started and talk about Game 1 of the 2020-2021 NBA season. The Bucks tipped off in Boston against Boston Celtics, and we fell 122 to 121. Crazy game. The Bucks really did not play well, I thought, from the mid-second quarter going into towards the middle to the end of the third quarter. Just sloppy offense. Again, that drop coverage defense that we play. So, again, what that means is when a guy, let's say this is what the Boston Celtics are doing a lot, Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown would have the ball up on the top of the key, up by the three-point line, and they would have a big man come and screen them. A lot of times Tristan Thompson or even Jason Tatum or Daniel Tice as well. And the guy comes and picks Drew Holiday or whoever the guard is that's guarding them, and then our big guy, which was Portis or Lopez a lot of the times, instead of staying up on the pick and getting the ball handler who's coming off of that pick, he drops more in the paint and is more protecting the roller, and that ultimately ends up leading to an open three a lot of the time because the screener sometimes has a hard time getting through the pick, and it just leads to wide open shots. And what I would love the Bucks to do is just change their defensive philosophy and actually step up on that pick and roll so that we're not just giving wide open shots. I mean, obviously we don't want to give up easy layups as well, but it's so frustrating. We give up so many uncontested threes, and when teams are hot, they're going to make them, and the Bucks are going to lose a lot of those games. So just those little defensive philosophies like that are frustrating as a Bucks fan to watch, because it seems like Coach Budenholzer just doesn't make the adjustment to when a team is really hot from the three, or a specific player or two, like a Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown is really hot. We got to step up on them and not give them these wide open shots. I mean, we're lucky that Drew Holiday he was really fighting through those picks and sometimes was successful getting through them so that he wasn't giving up wide open shots. But still, not all of our guys can do that. So it's very frustrating, and that's when the Boston Celtics really got hot in towards the end of the second quarter and pretty much all the third quarter. So hopefully we can make some adjustments as the season goes on. I mean, obviously we got a little bit more of a newer team here, so hopefully they're just trying to get all the kinks out and lock down their defensive philosophies. But that was a key thing for me in the game on Wednesday, is that the Bucks just stick to their ways always, and it's just so frustrating from that perspective. But let's take a look at the rest of the game here. I posted on Instagram on yesterday morning my 3 biggest takeaways from the game, and I'm going to go through those with you and kind of why I thought that those are the 3 most important things that I took away from the game. Number 1 is Drew Holiday is the real deal, man. That guy is unbelievably good. I mean, he is so composed with the ball. Like, don't get me wrong, I love Eric Bledsoe. He's playing right now on Christmas for New Orleans. I'm going to root for him. I'm going to root for that team as well, just because I love Eric Bledsoe. like I said in episode 1, we were this close to winning a title with Eric Bledsoe in 2019. This close. Obviously, we didn't make the finals. We lost to the Toronto Raptors, but if we win that game 3, that double overtime game, we're up 3-0. We're going to close that series out, and playing a banged up Golden State team, I think we would have had a good chance to pull it off. And gosh, we were just that close to winning with him, and he would have just been a cornerstone player for this Bucks team for years to come if we do end up pulling off that title. But obviously it didn't happen, and here we are now with Jrue Holiday, and I couldn't be happier to have him. This guy is unbelievable. I mean, I trust him with the ball. He is a playmaker. He's a shot maker. He's a shot creator. I mean, I didn't realize how crafty his layup game is. I mean, he made some tough layups with his right and left hand. He's a right-handed ball-dominant player, but he made some left-handed layups just look easy. Like that one where we got the rebound and he kind of just cherry pick, quote unquote, and just ran up the court and tried to get an easy layup. Someone threw it up to him, and he just puts up an easy layup with a guy right in his face. And the other one in the second half where he was dribbling with his left hand, cocked it back and put it up and just made it look easy. I mean, none of those layups were even like close to missing either. They were just money. I mean, that guy he's unbelievable. That step back 3 he hit to put us up 1 with about a little over a minute left in the fourth quarter. I mean, that was just spectacular. I mean, the guy he was absolutely fantastic on Wednesday. I didn't know what to expect from him. I mean, obviously I thought he was going to play well, but wow, I did not think that he had that in him. 25 points, 10 for 16 from the field. He also had 2 steals and a block with 6 rebounds, I believe. I mean, he filled up the stat sheet. He was just so freaking good. His mid-range shot game as well was great for us. I mean, he was really keeping us alive in the third quarter. He was really the only one who could make shots and just get something going. I thought Giannis struggled for most of the game, to be honest. Obviously, 18 points in the fourth quarter was Giannis-like, and ends up putting up 35 points, which is what Giannis does. But I thought the first 3 quarters, he looked a little sluggish, and he looked a little lost, and just didn't really have that energy, that burst that we're always used to seeing from Giannis. Like, there was times where he was dribbling the ball on the top of the key, and and he just couldn't. He didn't have that aggression. And Marcus Smart, I don't know if he was getting in his grill or getting in his head, but I mean, drawing 4 offensive fouls was probably the most frustrating thing for me in the game besides the drop coverage defense. I mean, that just drives me nuts. There's just times where he just doesn't have the composure and just freaking barges into guys. It's like, dude, what are you doing? Like, you're just trying to make too much out of it right now. Like, dish it off to an open guy. Or like, that's why I like Giannis not running the offense as much and playing off the ball, because he's so good off the ball. He really doesn't need the ball all the time to be dominant. I mean, we should be taking advantage more of Jrue Holiday's playmaking as well as Chris Middleton, which I'll get to of my second biggest takeaway. These guys are playmakers, and we should be trying to get Giannis some alley-oops, some post-ups. I mean, I think he really worked on his post-up game and that fadeaway mid-range jump shot. He hit one in the game that was just great. Saw a lot of videos of him in training camp as well, just hitting those shots, and I think he's really worked on that. And even last season, he didn't shoot that shot poorly at all. So I think we need to take advantage of his physical dominance and use that to his advantage. He did shoot pretty good from 3 for 8. Obviously, he had that air ball towards the end of the game, which was just makes you want to cringe every single time that happens. Like, I just don't get how that happens for a guy who can just walk up there and drain him sometimes, and then bam, air ball. But it just happens. Very inopportune time for that to go down. But again, I thought he shot pretty well from 3. Again, 6 for 8 from the free throw line, which is great when you think of that from a percentage perspective for Giannis. 75%, we'll take that all day. But, obviously he missed the one that we needed the most. And you can tell me that Giannis shoots 75% from the free throw line for the season, and I'm going to jump for joy. But it's still in crunch time in the fourth quarter, playoff games. This game, one free throw to tie the game and he can't put it through. As a 2-time MVP, you got to get that done. And obviously he fell short of that. But again, Jrue Holiday was absolutely spectacular, and I'm so freaking excited that he is on his team. His defense as well was absolutely outstanding. He was really pesty, just towards the three-point line, just getting his hand in there and just trying to make an impact. And gosh, he's such a freaking good player. I am so stoked that we have him, and I'm just looking forward to watching the guy because he is just everything that I wanted and more for a point guard on this Bucks team, and I can't wait to see him play on Christmas Day, probably matching up against Steph Curry. And I want to see him, light it up on offense, and not only because he is on my fantasy basketball team and had a great 48-point performance for me, fantasy points that is, but I just really enjoyed watching the guy play, and I cannot wait to watch this game on Christmas. So that's my first big takeaway, is that Jrue Holiday is the real frickin' deal. Number 2 is that Chris Middleton is turning into an elite playmaker. You heard Chris Webber on the broadcast talk about it. Middleton was flirting with a triple-double. I think it was 25 points, 10 or 12 rebounds, can't quite remember, and then 8 assists. And he had 6 assists pretty early on in the game. And I really liked him running the offense. I'm not a huge Chris Middleton fan in terms of his ball handling. I think he scares me a lot of the times. He makes sloppy mistakes. But in terms of his playmaking, we saw it come into fruition a little bit last season, but this game especially, he made some absolutely great passes, and I really felt comfortable with him running the offense. And that's really good for the Bucks' versatility. Having a guy like a Jrue Holiday who we can trust with the ball run the offense. Having a guy now like Chris Middleton, who is a deadly three-point shooter, a deadly mid-range shooter, who he can run the offense as well and make plays for other guys. And obviously Giannis can still run the offense as well. I don't want him to be the primary ball handler running the offense, but he can still do it. I mean, he's dominant getting to the paint when he so chooses. But again, Chris Middleton he made some great plays for this team, and that's going to be huge for this team going forward. Now, obviously, last year, Bledsoe was not a great playmaker. He was not great at running the offense. But now we've got 2 guys who are really good at running the offense in Jrue and Chris. Giannis, obviously, is a third as well. But I even saw Dante running the offense a little bit in that game. But, again, Chris Middleton, Chris Webber was... He pointed on the broadcast that he thought Chris Middleton was really excelling as a playmaker, and that was going to be huge for this Bucks team. And it was cool for him to say that, because a lot of times these national broadcasts really don't recognize that kind of thing. It's more of the local Milwaukee broadcast, but it was really cool to see, and he made some absolutely great plays. He got really hot in the fourth quarter shooting the ball, and I thought Chris Middleton looked great. He started a little slow, but to end up with 25 points, 8 assists, 10 or 12 rebounds, flirting with that triple-double in Game 1. Obviously, he's had great success against Boston in years past. We all remember that buzzer beater he hit in Game 1 in that playoff series in 2018. The broadcast actually alluded to that as well, which was pretty surprising to me. But again, Chris Middleton was great, and to have another elite playmaker on this team is really going to help, not only in the regular season, but in the playoffs, which is what we all know that matters the most for this Bucks team. My third biggest takeaway from this game was that Bryn Forbes he's a respectable defender. He's a pretty small 2-guard, coming in at 6'2", 6'3", but all the things I read in the offseason and watching a little bit of his tape is that he struggled guarding a lot of 2-guards, and I thought he moved his feet really well, and obviously he wasn't guarding like the most athletic guys in the world. I think he was guarded smart a little bit. That Pritchard, the rookie guard that they got, who actually looked pretty good for them. So I thought he looked pretty good on the defensive end. He didn't really impact us much on the offensive end. Only 1 for 3 from 3 with 3 points, but he can hit shots. I mean, the 3 he hit in the corner was a tough shot, and I think he deserves more minutes just based on his ability to move his feet on defense. I mean, a lot of Bucks fans are going to be frustrated at Pat Connaughton. I've got my Pat Can Dunk shirt on, which I absolutely love, but a lot of Bucks fans are going to be frustrated that Pat Connaughton played 21 minutes in that game, especially some crunch time minutes in the fourth quarter guarding Jason Tatum towards the end of the game, which didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I don't know why we didn't play Dante in the crunch time of the game. I mean, obviously he was in there with that, like at the last minute of the game when he drove down the lane when we stopped Jason Tatum, and he went on the fast break and should have just held up and not went for that layup. He didn't make a good move at all, and we ended up turning it over, and that was a key mistake for the Bucks that ended up not causing them to lose the game, but really hurt them. So, but again, Bryn Forbes, I thought he played pretty well, especially on defense. That was one of my main concerns about the signing when I went over that in episode 2. But again, I think he deserves minutes. He can hit shots. As long as we can mask his defense a little bit with Jrue Holiday in there, and Jrue Holiday was in there almost all the time that Bryn Forbes was in there, I think he can be a key contributor to this team. And we need to surround shooters around Giannis, and Bryn Forbes can do that. And as long as he can move his feet like I saw him do against the Boston Celtics, I think he's going to be a key contributor to this team. So those are my 3 biggest takeaways. Again, number 1, Jrue Holiday is the real frickin' deal. 2, Chris Middleton is turning into an elite playmaker. And 3, Bryn Forbes is a respectable defender. So now I'm going to go over a little preview of the game here against the Warriors. The Bucks looks like they will have DJ Augustin suiting up for them. He was out with a calf strain in Game 1, but he is probable for this game and expected to play. I'm interested to see how many minutes he plays. I think he's going to get about 20 to 25 minutes because he's really our second true point guard on this team. He can run the offense. I trust him with the ball, and he can hit shots. I think he's a really good player. He can make plays as well. He had a really nice alley-oop to Giannis in the preseason. Absolutely great pass. I'm excited to see what he can do for this team, and I think he's going to cut into a little bit of Connaughton's minutes, but I'm excited to see DJ out there, DJ Augustin, that is. And I can't wait to watch him out there. And it looks like Draymond Green is going to miss the second game of the season here. He will be out, which helps the Bucks a lot. Obviously, we saw Golden State opening night of the NBA against the Brooklyn Nets, and they did not look good at all. Kevin Durant absolutely dominated. He looks like the old Kevin Durant, and that's very scary for a Bucks team in the East that's going to have to match up with them, probably in the playoffs at some point if we want to make the NBA Finals. But again, Golden State looked pretty bad. I mean, Steph Curry, he got his, but without Klay Thompson out there, teams can really focus on Steph Curry, and they don't have to worry about all these other shooters around them, because when you got Klay Thompson sitting out there, he's going to make the defense go to him as well, because he's an absolutely deadly shooter as well. So Steph's going to have a hard time. I think Drew's going to match up on him most of the time, and I think he's going to do well. Obviously, they've got some intriguing players like a Kelly Oubre, Andrew Wiggins. These guys can go off, but they're very streaky shooters, and they're guys who need the ball in their hands. So I'm interested to see how the Bucks play them, and I think we're going to end up taking home the win here, getting our first win of the season. But I think it's going to be a good game, a good competitive game. The Warriors are going to come to play on Christmas Day, and I can't wait to watch it. But again, I'm also interested to see how James Wiseman does with the Golden State Warriors. He's a big presence. He could really dominate the Bucks in the paint, but I think Brook Lopez is an outstanding rim protector, and I think he's going to do pretty well against Wiseman there. So can't wait to watch. I hope you guys enjoy your Christmas, and I hope you enjoy watching the Bucks hopefully take home their first win of the season. And thanks again for supporting the podcast. Again, if you want to follow me on Twitter, it's going to be at @downtown_Brown and Instagram @downtownbrown. And again, if you haven't already, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Downtown Browntown. That way you can stay up to date on all my future content. And if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button as well. And if you know anyone who would be interested in checking it out, please share it on to them. I'd greatly appreciate it. And thank you guys again, and I hope you have a Merry Christmas. Go Bucks.